Just a quick point in the direction of Hammers Chat's raffle. It's a signed Paolo Di Canio shirt and signed armband is the second prize. Tickets are £5 each. The deadline is 8 p.m. tomorrow. You're probably not going to want to bother tomorrow because obviously West Ham are playing Tottenham. And if you buy 2 tickets for £5, you get the third free. The link is in the description below. I'm not going to say any more about it. If you fancy being entered into that, then go and have a little look below. Not great at the moment at West Ham. Not great for Graham Potter. Was interesting watching his press conference yesterday. He was still visibly upset, and the last time we'd seen him before that was when he was obviously visibly upset after the Brighton game. But I couldn't help looking at it and West Ham's running and the other teams around us, and how close Wolves ran Manchester City, of course. And I looked at it and I thought there is still opportunity. And in terms of people saying, are there any positives? Are there positives? Well, no, maybe not, but there are hopes and it could change the positives. And I still looked at it and I thought, actually, West Ham are still really fully in control of this, and so's Potter himself. Because I do think our running, they are all winnable games. I think Potter's right. When Potter says West Ham's games have been competitive, what he means is, we're not 5 goals down, like we were at times, under David Moyes, and getting absolutely pummeled earlier this season under Lopetegui by Chelsea. We're not out of games. There's a goal in it, and obviously we know what's wrong. We're conceding goals very, very late in games, and the attitude of the players has been called into question. But just taking Potter on his word, if we are competitive, which we are, we tend to stick within a goal of the opposition, then you have to say that the last 4 games are winnable. Looking back, we haven't had a win, in 7 or 8 or whatever it is. You might say, well, they're not winnable, but it is doable. We can definitely beat Tottenham tomorrow. And the more I look at their situation, I think the last gasp goal that made it 3-1 by Bodo in the first leg of the semi-final in Europa League, that's probably helped. If it had been 3-0, he might have been tempted to go a little bit stronger. But Postecoglou has admitted that Bergvall was injured. He's been really, really good this season. Dominic Solanke won't make it, and I think even Maddison has got a knock as well, so he won't make it. And he's admitted that he's going to heavily rotate the team ahead of tomorrow's game. That's winnable. Their eyes are going to be all on that, and I would expect West Ham to be motivated. I mean, really, really motivated. And Potter's got a decision to make. He needs a reaction. I think he already tested whether he can get a reaction from a lot of the same players, in as much as it was a disappointing, again, late goal against Southampton. And maybe he did get a reaction, because I do think we played, for at least half hour, we played pretty well against Brighton. But I think he probably needs more of a reaction. We need to see something within the team and within the selection that matches Potter's frustrations that he so visibly conveyed in his post-match press conference against Brighton. He was nowhere near as upset in his most recent one, but it was quite telling when he said, I'm feeling the pressure of 62,000 West Ham fans. And I'm sure he is. And I'm not surprised to hear him say that. I do think that he has been surprised. I think he's been surprised by a number of things. He's been surprised by the media scrutiny on West Ham. I think he's probably been surprised how big West Ham are. As I've mentioned before, there are a lot of West Ham fans in the media as well, which I think, probably not helpful to him. I think he's also been surprised that he's not been able to have the impact that he thought he'd be able to have. Put it all in with a the team repeating the same mistakes over and over. He's clearly feeling the pressure, but he's going to need to react, and I think he's going to need to do that with dropping some players. Whoever he thinks is not pulling weight, whoever Nicholas Füllkrug was alluding to when he was pointing out that players weren't doing as they were told, they need to be out of the team. And I think we need to see that as fans. I think Potter needs to do it, and I think the players who are still playing for him and who are playing for West Ham and who haven't checked out, so to speak, I think they need to see that the guys that are not pulling their weight are probably going to be dropped as well. And I do think if he does that, Tottenham's winnable. And I think for exactly the same reason that Tottenham's winnable, Manchester United is winnable. And if you start doing that sort of thing, then you're looking at a situation where West Ham could move. Realistically, I think Ipswich is winnable as well. West Ham could move up 3 places in the Premier League. Well, that's pretty much £10 million in terms of an extra transfer budget for next season. So as I say, so Potter in many respects is in control of that. You know, maybe that one player that you're looking at that costs 15 million, maybe, you know, makes a difference. You can go out and buy a £25 million player. There's a certain level of control in that. West Ham the club itself can control it as well by. I was going to do the video on that today, but you know, you hear from the club that Maximilian Hans, who was the guy that came over, the sort of data scout who was brought over from Werder Bremen, very, very highly regarded, and it was him that actually targeted Banzuzi and a few others, and he's working closely alongside Potter. He didn't disappear with Steiten, he stayed there and he's playing a role in it. So it's not necessarily just Macaulay and Steiten, you've got someone there who sort of hopefully knows what he's doing as well. So West Ham, look, we're not going to be able to go out and buy big players. I mean, I don't know if you saw it. I didn't particularly want to do a video on that on its own because it is quite negative. But the Banzuzi deal, as you may remember, in January was him. I think it was Karen Brady. Well, I don't think it was. It was Karen Brady who handled the negotiations. She went in with basically quite a low bid. But I think we went in for £13 million. In the end, he's been sold to Leipzig for £15 million. So clearly there was some level of negotiation there. She went in with a first and final offer. And they didn't take kindly to it, the Belgian club whose name escapes me. And they said, no, all right, we're not going to negotiate. If you're not going to negotiate, we're not going to negotiate further. The truth of the matter is if we'd have given them probably another £2 million, we'd have got the player and got him in January. You know, looks like he's going to be a very, very good player. He had some comments last night and basically said, looks like I dodged a bullet with West Ham, not doing so well at the moment. And anyway, I've no interest in playing that style of football. Or that's not my kind of football, which is not great. I've heard a similar thing from Angel Gomez. So, but again, West Ham are very much in control of that. Graham Potter's in control of that. If he can get on the front foot, if he can play enticing football, if he can play attacking football, we can definitely win. It's possible to win 3 out of the next 4 games. It really is. And if we do that, then there really is a possibility of getting up to 14th. And I think if he does that, then he is in a situation where at least he can give some positivity forward to West Ham fans for next season. And he finishes on a status quo, which is basically took over in 14th, finished in 14th, but we get that little glimmer of hope for next season. But before I continue, please point in the direction of today's video sponsor, which is Match Bingo. You'll know what Match Bingo is by now, hopefully. We've had so many winners, well over 200 winners on Hammers Chat. It's a basic like bingo card, but rather than numbers being on there, there's things that happen in a football game. You don't have to tick it off yourself. The app does it for you. It's only £2 per card, and if you buy £10 worth of credit, then you get an extra tenner, so you get £20 worth for spending a tenner. It's adults only, by the way, so no boys and girls this one, only mums and dads, I'm afraid, because it is gambling, even though it's very low stake. You can only buy a maximum of 5 cards, actually, for any game, but actually, on the West Ham game, if you buy 4 cards, you'll get the 5th card free. So we've got lots of offers, but you've got to use the link below to get those offers and sign in via Hammers Chat. It's a nice little fun game. I know a lot of you have downloaded it already, and if you have done, then maybe worth going and checking. Every so often I check, I think, oh, hold on a second, I checked once and I had a little cheeky little 25 quid in there, which I didn't know I had. So worth checking. Go and have a look, and then get your cards in for the game. Obviously, West Ham against Tottenham. That's Match Bingo. Link is in the description below. So I think Potter is in control of some of this stuff, and as downbeat as he is feeling at the moment, and I do understand it, and whilst he's talking about the pressure of 62,000 West Ham fans and so on and so forth, that is the situation he's in, and this is what he signed up for. It's not, if it is a surprise to him, maybe how many fans there are, or how much pressure there is, or how much scrutiny there is on West Ham, then that's only down to him not doing his research and not doing his due diligence, because it's not. You know, I don't know. Did he think we had less fans? Did he think there was less eyes upon West Ham? You only had to look at what happened with Lopetegui, look at what happened with Moyes to understand that the eyes of the media are on West Ham all the time. And I think in many respects, it is a chance to turn over a new leaf, maybe for him now. His style of football and what he's done has only dragged him down the league. It's not particularly worked. We had the Brighton fan on with Gio last week who did say he is capable of getting teams playing entertaining football. And I think his words were the last 10 games under Graham Potter before he left was the best football he's ever seen. That's what Brighton fan said, right? Well, that's good. That's a good thing. And I certainly think he's got more to work with at West Ham even now than he had when he first took over at Brighton from Chris Hughton. And I do think it's a mentality type of thing as well. As we mentioned before, he tells the players to get forward, but then he makes negative substitutions. He'll change a striker, he'll bring a striker off and put a midfielder on. He'll take a midfielder off and he'll put a defender on. And the message in itself is quite negative. And in many respects, he's got nothing to lose at this point. I think he's at quite a low ebb. His methods are not yielding results. There's not been really an incremental improvement. Well, we've got worse. We've not improved since he's come in. We got worse. So I do wonder with him, allowing the players to get on the front foot. I think that sends the correct message. And I think actually changing the team as well. They got. I think a lot of the players have got PTSD in that sense. I don't mean that to undermine the real meaning of the term, but let's call it football PTSD if you want. In the way that everybody starts rushing back to defend the box and not keeping their shape and not holding their positions in midfield and actually making us tough to break down. We just kept on retreating. Change some players, change some personnel, and just instruct them to keep their shape and maybe pick some players like we said in the preview, maybe like Lewis Orford, maybe like Andy Irving, just players that are not scarred. They've got this mental scarring with the capitulations that constantly happen. And I think if he changes stuff, I think if he gives a freshness to the team, I think if he sends them out to attack, then he's got a chance against Tottenham. And if he beats Tottenham, then everyone's peckers up ahead of Manchester United, who are obviously pretty much in the same situation as Tottenham are. Makes that a winnable game. You win that, and all of a sudden you've got back-to-back games, you've got a little bit of momentum. It's not a million miles away. It's within reach. For West Ham to do something, it is within reach. And everyone needs it, no more so than Potter himself, no more so than the fans, the club, everyone. It's not just about the 10 million quid, it's about hope for next season. Finish like that, and it gives people hope for next season. Get that first signing over the line, and some of the players that we have been linked with are promising players. We can't go out and buy the best players. We've got to do a bit of some hidden gems and some pearl diving, as we say. But a couple of, as much as Macaulay might not have been, well, he wasn't. It didn't really have anything to do with recruitment. He was a number cruncher at Chelsea. It is interesting how we keep getting linked with some of the young targets, the up-and-coming players that Chelsea are linked with. And it's clearly nobody's fault. And if he's come over with, with a little dossier under his arm, so to speak, and fully aware of who Chelsea are playing, and even if he's just come along with 20, 30 players, then that's no bad thing as well. Add in, Max Hans has clearly got an eye for a player. We know that. He was very, very highly regarded at Werder Bremen. We are well behind. There's no doubt about that. We're well behind in all of this stuff. But there is some hope. There is some hope. Positives, optimism. I don't know about optimism. There is some. I'm not optimistic any of this will happen, but it's not a million miles away. It is within grasp. If we can do that, get some wins, then maybe, just maybe, he'll buy himself the breathing space where he's coming in. I'd love to see him come in, very, very happy after beating Tottenham, and I mean that. I'm not necessarily wagging his finger at the press or anyone else, but he's going to be more motivated for it than Ange is at the moment, because Ange has he's got his vehicle by which he can stick two fingers up at the critics as far as Postecoglou is concerned, because he's on the cusp of getting him to a final. So he can fire that back at his critics. So I do think Potter is going to be more fired up than this. Ordinarily, I would suspect that the West Ham players will be more fired up than the Tottenham players who are going to... They're seeing a lot of their teammates getting injured and stuff like that, and they're going to want... They want to be in a final. And throughout the season, they have seemed to have played differently in Europe than they played in the league. And we know about this. We know about this at West Ham when you've had a game midweek. And I would... This is why I do think he should probably change the team. Because the one downside is our players and how, as I say, how mentally scarred they are. Because it wouldn't take much to get a West Ham team more motivated than the Tottenham players. I think we can do it. And I said 1-1 in the preview, but we recorded that preview before I saw what Tottenham had done, before I knew about their injuries. The only uncertainty for me is Potter. What's his mindset? How is he going? How wedded is he to what he's been doing so far? How loyal is he going to be to those players who, quite frankly, he should feel have let him down? What's he going to change? If he does change some things, then I do think opportunity is within his grasp.